Love it, love it.
Shalom, shalom, everybody. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Wednesday night class, and title of it is Dropping Knowledge on Hebrew Israelites. We're going to do our moment of silence, and then we're going to go into our prayer, and then read the songs and do current events. So, with that being said, oh Lord, we come before Thee at this time. Lord, we set this time apart for Thee, that You have given unto us this day. We are thankful for the knowledge and the understanding that You have given unto us up until this point. We seek Thy face on this night, that You shower us with peace and enlightenment and a sense of togetherness. Oh Lord, we see Thine hand in the affairs of the world, and we know and understand that what You have spoken in the past will surely come to pass. Turn out Thy face from us, but hearken unto this plea. Hearken, O Lord, and do, for we need You so very much at this hour. All praises unto You. Okay. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Okay, so I'm gonna read a song right quick. This is Psalm 107. It's God's wonderful work to the children of men. It says, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for He is good, for His mercy endureth forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom He have redeemed from the hands of the enemy, and gathered them out of the lands, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. They wandered in the wilderness in a solitary way. They found no city to dwell in. Hunger and thirsty, their souls fainted in them. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble, and He delivered them out of their distresses. He led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city of habitation. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for His goodness and for His wonderful works to the children of men. For He satisfied the longing soul and filled the hungry soul with goodness, such as sat in the darkness and in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction and iron, because they rebelled against the words of the Lord and contemned the counsel of the Most High. Therefore He brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble, and He saved them out of their distresses. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and break their bands in asunder. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for His goodness, for His wonderful works to the children of men. For He have broken the gates and the brass, and cut the bars of iron asunder. Fools, because of their transgressions and because of their iniquities, are afflicted. Their souls abhor all manner of meat, and they draw nigh unto the gates of death. Then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble, and He saved them out of their distresses. He sent His sword and healed them and delivered them from their destructions. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for His goodness, for His wonderful works to the children of men, and let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving and declare His works with rejoicing. They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters. These were the works of the Lord and His wonders in the deep. For he commanded and raises the stormy winds, which lift up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heavens, they go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of trouble. They reel to and fro and stumble like a drunken man and are at their wit end. Then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Then are they glad because of they be quiet. So he bringeth them into their desired haven. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Let them exalt him also in the congregation of the people, and praise him in the assembly of the elders. He turned the rivers into a wilderness, and the water springs into a dry ground, a fruitful land into barrenness for the wickedness of them that dwell therein. He turneth the wilderness into a standing water, and dry ground into water springs. And there he maketh the hungry to dwell, that they may prepare a city for habitation, and sow the fields, and plant vineyards, which may yield fruit of increase. He blesses them also, that they are multiplied greatly, and suffereth not their cattle to decease. Again, they are menaced and brought low through oppression, affliction, and sorrow. He poureth, he poureth contempt upon princes, and causes them to wander in the wilderness where there is no way. Yet setteth he the poor on high from affliction, maketh him families like a flock. The righteous shall see it and rejoice, and all iniquity shall flout her mouth. Whoso is wise and will observe these things, even they shall understand the loving kindness of the Lord. Okay, that was Psalms 107. It's the God who works in the children of men. Let's say what I got out of that is that he kept saying on like 5, 6 occasions that uh, they would go away from him and get in trouble. Then they would cry unto the Lord, and then he would deliver them out of all their distresses. So, what you have to understand about that is, in order for them to cry to him, they got to know his name. So you can't cry to him and he hear you if you ain't calling his name. So that's the thing that keep going over and over, and as we waking up, we have to understand that our forefathers knew his name. They wasn't like we were. They didn't have this. They weren't separated from him for 2,500 years like we have. And so they knew his name. And so that, that's what's happening right now. He's bringing back the understanding till we know who he is, what his role is, and what his name is. And then once we figure that out, we call him. He's going to come just like he did in all these instances right here. Yeah. Anybody have a comment? Psalm 107.
Yeah, as you were reading that, Leonard, I was reminded that the Lord of hosts is in control of the elements, the wind and the water, just as you were saying Monday night. Um, like in verse 28, it says, I'm sorry, verse 24, they see his and raise it the stormy winds, which lift
Right.
up the waters thereof. So he's in command of the elements. No, you know.
Right. Well, you could see where they got the story from in Galilee. Right. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that happened on the video is in his Psalms 107.
Mm-hmm.
He calmed the wind. The wind was raging and roaring, and he calmed. The same thing happened in the
Right.
video. Right. So, yeah. Anybody else?
It's also a reminder, Leonard, that I wanted to say one more thing, that we have a merciful God, because in one verse he talks about them rebelling against him, and not too many verses after that, when they came to themselves and cried out to him, he brought them out of their trouble, even though they had rebelled against him. So we have a very merciful God.
Right. Okay. So we had current events. Anybody got any current events? Anything they what that was you were saying? Yeah, what that was you saying earlier?
About harps.
I'm talking about Zaire.
About
Oh,
the war. The United States supposed to be at war. I
Supposed to be
mean,
at war with who?
they were talking about China and Russia. Oh, and one of the guys said something about them using China and Russia to fight like the people. Uh, oh, geez, what do you got? Like the Proud Boys in that? Why would they do that when United States has weapons? They have weapons to go against other countries. You mean to tell me they can't handle their own insurrections or people who, in disagreement with the government? Uh,
Right, right.
no,
Yeah, it's something to that. They talking,
yeah,
they trying to reveal something, but they're doing it in a roundabout way.
yeah.
What that sound like to me is when they start talking about those militias and all that, it sound like King Alpha playing to me. Because he said the guy when you watch the video, he says that the whole objective is to get the Israelites out in the streets
Oh,
and
oh,
ripping them in. That's the objective. The final tally is civil war. That's why they had Obama come in there first, do 8 years, and that's what brought all this on. That's what brought the insurrection on. Was it started when they had a black man in the White House for 8 years. They was waiting for this. They couldn't believe it at first. Then they had to wait 4 years, thinking it was impossible. He was going to do 8 years. Then he won and did eight
mm-hmm.
years. That's what really brought all the rednecks out. They was sick of 8 years. They had to deal with that.
mm,
And then as soon as they done that, they came with the most racist person you could possibly put in the White House. It's Trump.
Mm,
That's the whole. These people got they work in 25-year segments.
mm-hmm.
So this stuff ain't just started. They're working on it. I mean, it's just like when they topple those countries. You think they started maybe 10, 20 years ago sending people. They call them they like Secret Service people, but they in plain clothes.
Mm.
They really have no connection with the government, but they working for the government, and they'll send
Right.
10 or 15 of them in a country, and they start stirring up chaos all over the place and stirring the
Mm-hmm.
people up. And they do that over a 4 or 5 year period. Then all of a sudden, the whole company in turmoil, and everybody think it just happened. No, they went in and started that. They got people that have the capabilities to do that type of stuff,
is that
and
the
that's
mercenaries?
all they're doing with this. Yeah, like sort of like they like high tech mercenaries, but they in plain clothes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right, and 9 times out of 10, they have served in they have served in the military at some capacity at one point.
Right, but all they is with what they when on all these news channels they call them CNN contributors. That's all that is. It's them, they got military background, they got a secret service background, but at the same time they well informed on all the goings on what's going on around the world, and they it's a technique, and they know how to do that. These other countries understand that. Like Russia and China, they understand that America has those capabilities, and that's why they keep their borders closed off from them. They know what they can do. They're capable of doing if you allow them to come in. Till they even get people in their own their own the countries they're trying to topple. They get people from that country and train them how to do that and send them in. Uh, you know, they've been doing that forever. They did it to Liberia. That's what they used W. Du Bois for. Yeah. So like I say, all of a sudden you look up and just like when Russia toppled, that was America was behind sending in agents and coming in doing that. That's underground, causing strife and turmoil and and putting seeds of dissension within a government, to the point where the people go in an uproar against the government, and then it just, it topples. Yeah. So I'm gonna play this video right here. It's got to do with this part of what I was talking about. Some of what I'm talking about, but this is Joe Biden, and he's using crosstalk. He's promised all those blacks all this and that before the election, but we're gonna see what he's doing now.
In the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4. One of the most diabolical anti-black racist practices that the United States government has consistently done throughout the years to undermine the descendants of American slavery has been the way in which they consistently make it a point to prioritize the well-being and financial prosperity of immigrants over their very own black citizens. Now, please hear me clearly, because the argument that I'm going to make here is an old one. This is an argument that Martin Luther King Jr. has made multiple times, but you don't have to believe me, because I'll let King tell you himself.
There has never been a single solid, determined commitment on the part of the vast majority of white Americans on the question of genuine equality for the black man. In 1863, the Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation. He wasn't given any land to make that freedom meaningful. And it was something like having a man unjustly imprisoned for 30 or 40 years, and suddenly you discover that he's innocent, that he's been unjustly jailed for 30 or 40 years. And then you simply go up to the man and say, now you are free. But you don't give him any bus fare to get to town. You don't give him any money to buy any clothes to put on his back. You don't give him any money to get on his feet so that he can rise up once more as a man. But this is what happened to the black man in America. And we must remember this, that at the very same time when America refused to give the black man anything, they said you're free, he was left penniless, illiterate, standing out in a situation not knowing what to do and where to go. But we must not forget that at the same time the Negro was being treated like this, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest. It says that our country was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. It refused to undergird its black peasants who were brought in chained from Africa with an economic floor. And so emancipation for the Negro was freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without a roof over their heads. freedom without bread to eat, freedom without land to cultivate. It was freedom and famine at the same time. And it is a miracle that the Negro has survived.
Okay.
So as you can clearly,
Yeah, so like I was saying before, they using military tactics on us, and we're not understanding it. If you notice, everything he was just talking about was in the 60s, early 60s, 63 on up like that. But look what happened. Once they got a coach of that, and they came to a point where they wasn't dealing with it no more. 69 and 70s when the war of Vietnam came, and what they do, kill off 2 generations of black males, and so they constantly using these military tactics on us, and we ain't getting the we don't see what they're doing, and even then after that, every time we get to the point where we don't want to, it come to a head, we don't want to deal with them no more. They come up with something else. Then they came with crack.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is playing. It ain't just happening. It's all been playing. Like I said, they working on a 25 to 50 year time frame, and it's already just like you do a rough draft before you do a essay. They already got it planned out. What they gonna do to us? They ain't finna just on their own let us go, because they don't have nothing else. You know, when we leave, they don't have nothing. They ain't nothing but dead folks walking around. We the one get a whole place life.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a comment.
this has been going on for over a century. This includes Asian immigrants. Asian immigrants have always been welcomed into this country on the basis of education and employment. And furthermore, they've been favored over Black Americans as well. Everything that I'm saying right now can be backed up by history and data. And I'll be going more into detail about this in a future video. But let this much sit on your mind for a moment. Between 1950 and 1964, 6,000 Korean students entered the United States, many of whom were professionals like medical doctors, lawyers, and professors. Now, let me back it up for a moment so you can really process what I just said. While you were fighting court battles like Brown versus Board of Education, literally risking your life to get a decent education, the U.S. government was flying in Korean students, giving them access to institutions that you were barred from. Brothers and sisters, please stop letting other people of so-called color make comparisons to the plight and struggles of the descendants of American slavery. It is not the same on any level. But let's move on, because I digress. Now, currently, we're headed into the Biden-Harris administration. And what they're going to do is prioritize roughly 9 million Hispanic immigrants and the Hispanic community at large over the Black community. Now, how do I know this? I know this because that's what Joe Biden said he was going to do. You don't believe me? Here's Joe Biden in his own words telling you what he's going to do after being asked a very direct question about reparations for the descendants of American slavery.
Vice President.
So watch this conversation right here, and then remember who got him in the White House. We came out in record numbers and got him in there. And then he did the same thing to Obama. Now watch how he's going to evade this question.
Do you support reparations? Look, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single time. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America, and we should invest in them. Everybody will benefit from it, every single American, and you should get used to it. This is a nation of immigrants
That's who we are. That's why we're who we are. That's what makes us different, and we should invest in it.
Thank you, Mr. Biden. Senator Klobuchar,
Wow.
So you see that he
Yes.
went and dealt with the immigrants. But notice what he said.
Work like the devil.
Everything that we know, hold up. Everything that we know is that the immigrants, he said these Mexicans is the future of America.
Right.
Notice that? So
Yeah.
so they through with us. They already know they got a plan for us. So they that's why they constantly building the Latino up. So they already got a plan. They got 25. They working years ahead of time. They already know what they're gonna do with us. So the man asked him about the reparations, and the Mexican ain't got nothing to do with reparations.
Right.
He totally avoided the whole question. Yeah.
In plain sight.
Right.
Biden has worked with and supported the Latino community for decades, standing shoulder to shoulder with President Obama to pass the landmark Affordable Care Act, strengthening workers' rights and defeating the National Rifle Association to ban assault weapons and higher capacity magazines. Further, during the Obama years, the high school dropout rate among Latinos were reduced by more than half. The administration's economic recovery programs helped to slash Latino unemployment to 5.9% in 2016, down from a nearly 13% peak in 2009. Now, here's the important part. And Biden led the administration's Central America strategy, securing $750 million to invest in the security and prosperity of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, so fewer families would ever have to make the unforgiving journey north. So hold on just a moment. $750 million. You know what? I'm not going to go on that tangent right now. Let's just keep on moving forward. Joe Biden knows the Latino community, and they know him. He will be ready on day one to implement the changes needed for the Latino community to thrive. I repeat, he will be ready day one to implement the changes needed for the Latino community to thrive. So what does that all actually mean for Black America? Well, I'll let Dr. Claude Anderson answer that question, and then we'll get back to the discussion. We're going to have an unending influx of immigrants into the country. And that's what Dr. Price is talking about. And nobody, no Black politician, no Black organization wants to deal with that issue. They will avoid it at all costs. Even though in their hearts they know that's one of the biggest problems for Black folks. We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians.
Did that not happen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We looking right at it. So how much more so you think what they got on the money gonna happen? If he said that right there, we'd already witnessed it already happen. All the Mexicans came from everywhere. Well, they got on the money, they're gonna flood the whole east coast of America. And they're gonna bust the Hoover Dam up and water gonna be everywhere. So if that came to pass, they think they ain't gonna, you know how much money it took to engrave that on the money? They ain't just putting it on there for the GP. Yeah.
You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4. The great Dr. Claude Anderson spent 30 plus years warning us about this moment. And here we are. Shout out to Jim Clyburn, John Lewis, Sheila Jackson Lee, and all of the other great politicians that were supposed to be representing the Black community.
Exactly.
You have done a phenomenal job. Thank you so much in protecting the Black community. But all sarcasm aside now, and in all seriousness,
And sarcastic.
we have to start asking ourselves, what does it mean to be fourth on the population list while at the same time being the poorest group of people in this country? Well, Dr. Claude Anderson, please take it away again.
And the worst part about it is as you descend and go down to number 4, those other groups are going to go up. And as they go past you, you're going to have major racial clashes in this country. You'll have fights all over this country between blacks and Hispanics.
That's what I was telling you earlier. They setting up a race war. That's how they're doing it. They're doing it through first of all, bringing a black president on the scene, and then he go 8 years, and they bring the most racist person you can get, and at the same time bringing Mexicans in, building them up over the blacks. And like I said, we sitting there looking at it. Like I said, look at all these Mexican restaurants popping up all over the place. Mexicans over here, they just came out of nowhere. Supposedly they snuck in the country, right? How you got an ID card? How you got a 1920 Silverado? How you getting out of stuff? Come on, man.
Right, and a work permit.
Right, and like I said before, what people are not looking at, they don't have the right lenses on, is you see black men walking all up and down the road, that some of them like 70, 65 years old got a gas can and a push mode, trying to hustle up some money, pushing up down the highway. So you say, well, what's going on? Well, we've been displaced.
Yeah.
We're in a place, we've been displaced. This happened 400 or 500 years ago. Displaced. That's why you everywhere you go, you see them on the side of the road and in the cities, under the bridges and all that, and all these homeless communities and stuff, because we've been snatched about our homeland and brought over here. We displaced. Supposed to be in a predicament we in after all that's been done, and especially when you understand that they Israelites and Deuteronomy 28 on us. Yeah, they act like they surprised. When you see a 65-year-old man pushing a lawnmower down the side of the road.
Yeah. Leonard, I am a little surprised though.
Okay.
I'm a little surprised at your identification that it will be blacks against Mexicans. So what is the European? Is he just inciting this, or?
No, it's the blacks against the Mexicans, but it's also the number one factor is it's JFAT and
Esau.
It is the Israelites. JFAT Israelites is at odds with each other. JFAT can't see, but they using the Mexican and the Chinese to stir up drama too.
Okay.
It's all about it. The whole thing is about Israel. You're gonna lose your they understand who we are, so they can afford to get a Mexican some or the Chinese man something, because they can't afford to give us nothing, because once we start rising, that's the end of their world.
Okay.
We're not from the try to assist us or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And poor whites. And black folk cannot fight all these groups. Everybody can not always be against black folk. They know that we are vulnerable and we are defenseless.
Now, let me elaborate on what Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about, because when he's talking about fights and clashes, he's not talking about physical violence. He's talking about politics. For example, I did a video back in November of 2019 titled "Chinese Immigrants Attempt to Block Affirmative Action in Washington State." And that video was based on this article that's here in front of you from the Seattle Times titled "Washington Voters Narrowly Rejecting Affirmative Action in Referendum 88. Another example would be this New York Times article titled "A Blank Relief Fund Was Only for Black Residents. Then Came the Lawsuits." Oregon earmarked $62 million to explicitly benefit Black individuals and business owners. Now, some of the money is in limbo after lawsuits alleging racial discrimination. Now, when you go on to read this article, what you'll find out is that the lawsuit was brought on by 2 white business owners and a Hispanic business owner. Now, let's take a moment to read a portion of this article. Supporters of the fund argued that the $62 million accounted for about 4.5% of what the state received, leaving plenty for residents who are not Black. They also noted that other blank-related funds were tailored in a way that allowed them to almost exclusively benefit particular racial and ethnic groups. A $10 million fund created by the state that largely benefits undocumented Latino immigrants, and one created by Portland officials to aid a district of largely Asian-owned businesses. So now the question is simply to be asked, what's the problem here? If everyone is getting their money, why is it that as soon as it's time for you to get your slice of the pie, now all of a sudden everybody has a problem and they want to bring on lawsuits and they want to form coalitions to block policy that could possibly help you? How come everybody has a problem when it's your turn to get a slice of the pie? That's the question. And that's what you'll be dealing with moving forward, and that's going to increase. If you're not willing to play ball with that people of color, minority, and marginalized group game, anytime you make efforts to secure policy for the Black community, you're going to see this type of pushback and people coming together to block it just to stop you. But hear me clearly, because I've been holding off on saying this for quite some time now. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have any more time. There's no more time for me to hold out on and for me to be quiet on and to be worried about your feelings. I just got to tell you the truth. If you are unable to secure any,
check this out now, based on what we already know,
tangibles for the Black community within this Biden-Harris administration, Black America as a whole is finished. In my personal opinion, we only have this administration the next 4 years to get something together. If I'm being generous, I'll say 2030. So that's 9 years from now. That's this administration, another administration, and then a bonus year. That's if I'm being generous. But how I personally feel, you have only this administration to get some tangibles on the table that specifically benefit the Black community. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the numbers don't lie. By 2065, you will be 4th on the population list. And by 2053, the median wealth of Black Americans will have fallen to 0. Window World offers a variety.
That's crazy.
By 2050.
Yeah, so you see what's going on. They already got plans. They already, they got plans for us. Man, they don't plan for us to be here. Like I said, they already got a new Negro. They've been setting it up for when it started right before the Obama administration. They're Mexican. And then you dealing with like the Most High said in Obadiah, the wise men of Edom. So who was the wise men of Edom? The Rothschilds and the bankers. They're all about money. So they finna get they got this rolling belt initiative they setting up in Africa. It's all about money. And so if they're gonna make some money, it's like got to be involved. He the one gonna bless it. So they already got plans. They've been had these plans. They're just setting it all up. Coronavirus, all that tied in. Yeah.
53, the median wealth will have fallen to 0, and by 2064, you'll be 4th on the population list. How do you think that future is going to look for us? You tell me. It's 4th quarter, there's 9 minutes left, and we're down by 45 points.
Come on.
That's the reality. I've been holding off on being this honest with you for quite some time now, but I cannot hold off anymore. Now understand, there's one of two things that have to be done, if not both. You're either going to have to secure reparations and the Black agenda, or we are going to have to get serious about getting into tech. I've been talking about that since late 2019 with my video series titled Brother Please Hear Me Out. We are currently within the beginning stages of the fourth industrial revolution. The tech door is wide open right now. If we are unable to secure reparations in the Black agenda, and we also allow this current window that's open as we're entering the fourth industrial revolution, if we allow that window to close and we did not make significant leaps and bounds in the tech world with all of the free resources that are currently available to learn how to code and do a multitude of other things, if we allow that door to close, by 2030, you can stick a fork in it, brothers and sisters. We're done. We're done. And that's just the reality. We're finished. So I hate to end the video on such a somber note, but the reality is the reality. The numbers don't lie. It's right there in front of your face. The only question is, where do we go from here? But that'll be for another video. So until the next time, please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you get notified whenever I release a new video. Make sure you text TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That's TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text.
Okay. Any comments?
Yeah, Leonard, like you say, America, they deal in 25-year increments. So, you know, while we're sleeping, they're planning. And they also use what I call their bastard language. And I call it that because so many of their words have double meanings.
Right.
And one word in particular that we get excited about, but it absolutely means nothing, is the word change. Okay? We get excited about them making a change, but there is no correction in the change. And that's what Obama ran on. You know, the slogan for Obama's campaign, when you really think about it, was it didn't have no meaning. He just said, yes, we can. Yes, we can what? Nigga? I mean, yes, we can what, Obama? You know? So and the analogy that that my, you know, one of my professors gave was this, and I'll be quiet. He says you can have a flat tire on the front right of your car. And you can take that flat tire and you can change it to the left side of your car, but the tire is still flat. So we have to stop getting excited about when these people say they're gonna make a change, and and start focusing more on whether or not, you know, financial equity is being brought about or whatever. At the end of the day, we know the only person that's going to correct anything for us is the Lord of hosts. So, but I'm just saying, they're leading us by our nose, or they led us by our nose to the slaughter because we don't know what to get excited about. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments on that?
Well, they're just saying based on our education level that we just wouldn't keep up with the tech. Like basically what he was saying was he would think every Israelite should just start learning tech right now, or else we just doomed, essentially.
Yeah, right. But like I said, when from the information and from what you gathered over here, and on Prophets of Awakening, the tech situation is in Africa.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying that was like, you know,
right. That's where we're going. You don't understand that.
He don't have no understanding. I'm just saying like that's what. Yeah.
Right. So, but the powers that be already know that, so they already got it already set up.
Right.
It's already set up.
Exactly. But
because we got to be separated. It's no, like you were saying, it's a conflict going on. Nobody, because of who we are, all the other nations have a problem with us, and they come in here and they see what how the Europeans treat us, and they come in with the same thing. So we have to be carted out of here. They've been at that plane.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and no, but that does confirm, because like it's kind of like a zero. Like basically what he says, like it's a kind of a limit. Like at some point, it's like Israelites can't make no money here at all. So like, well, at that point we should be gone, basically. Right.
Yeah. And so this video right here, like I was telling you before, this stuff been happening. I was talking about how a long time ago, over 20 years, maybe more than that. If you think back, Oprah Winfrey had disappeared from America. She was over in Africa. She had those girls' schools and all that. She was building up over there. They had all this stuff planned in. The guy Robert Johnson sold BET and went to Africa. And then all of a sudden he pop up and he make this big old proclamation about reparations. Giving African Americans reparations. So let's check this out right quick. I told you how they use the boule to the boule is a watchdog for the Negroes.
Yeah.
So check this out. And I showed you how they used W.E. Du Bois to undermine Liberia. Well, let's look at this right here.
We are here at Robert L. Johnson's resort in Villas. This resort was actually built by Robert L. Johnson, the former owner of BET Entertainment Network's BET Television, which he sold. And news is he used to be the owner of this resort. It's still in his name, but he sold it. A guy named owns it now, which is good news that it's still black owned. So we're at the Robert L. Johnson Resort. So this resort was built by Robert L. Johnson, who's the founder of BET, Black Entertainment Television. Okay. So this was his resort. I don't think he owns it anymore.
Think that's a coincidence? He over in Liberia?
Beautiful. It's here in Monrovia, Liberia.
All this stuff was being set up a long time ago. So just for the people that don't know, they brought us over here 400 years ago on slave ships. A lot of them went to a lot of us went to America, but a lot of people went to Britain too. It's a lot of Israelites in Britain. So show you how these people have been planning for a long time. Liberia, which is what we're looking at right here. Notice the beachfront and all that stuff. America sent a bunch of slaves back. They started waking up, finding out who they were. So they gave them, visas and all that and sent them here to Liberia and built a colony, African-American colony in Liberia. Well, they was waking up in Great Britain. Same thing happening now. They waking up all over the place. Mainly America and Great Britain. Well, it started back then, where they built Sierra Leone. The Britons built Sierra Leone and sent the ones that was waking up out of there to Sierra Leone. So Great Britain got a colony of Israelites in Sierra Leone, and America built this place right here, Liberia. But they sent agents there to make sure that they didn't mature, because they know the people was watching.
Monrovia, Liberia.
So, like I was saying before, who was going to stay in America with all this garbage they got going on when you can live somewhere like that? Nothing black folks.
Exactly.
The president black. So they had to go send their boys in and sabotage. They've been sabotaging them ever since.
Miami Beach. This is Miami Beach. We're at Miami Beach. Okay. State House. Yeah. Government House. Okay. Whenever they show Liberia, they never show this part. The beautiful beaches,
Right.
blue water. They never show this part. Just the Ebola. But this is Liberia. You gotta come. You gotta come visit. So this is a view of the beaches of Liberia from a rooftop restaurant where we're hanging out at.
Yeah, I want you to check out this conversation that he's going to bring up.
Monrovia, Liberia. It's a go. Yeah, I'm gonna take some photos. I thought you did. Yeah. But I'm gonna go up. Yeah. This is beautiful. Like there's so much potential with Liberia that I don't understand why. I understand Black Americans want to go to Ghana. Me myself, I repatriated to, I'm Nigerian, but there's so much potential in Liberia, and for the simple fact of the history that Black Americans already have here in Nigeria, it just makes sense to focus on Liberia. I apologize. With the history the Black Americans have already established here in Liberia, it just makes sense for us as a collective to reconnect and focus on rebuilding Liberia. I mean, this is the original point of return. This is where we were first welcomed back.
So who know that? You know what I'm saying? How many African Americans know that?
Not very many.
Liberia is a country that was established by Black Americans. So why are we neglecting Liberia and focusing on Ghana and all these other places? Let me look at this. This is gorgeous. Hold on. Look at this. Oh, that's the Ducor Hotel. Yeah, the Ducor Hotel. Oh, right there. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the Ducor Hotel. Yeah, oh, this is gorgeous. And you could, what would be cool, you could catch a ferry or a boat. Yeah. Why won't they renovate this? So this is the view from the top floor of Hotel Africa here in Monrovia, Liberia. It's a stunning view. And again, the potential of Liberia is just, I know we focus on Ghana and everywhere else, but I really think the Black diaspora should come back and not and focus on Liberia. Because again, who established Liberia? It was a Black diaspora, it was Black Americans. So I don't understand why we're neglecting Liberia. Look at this, look at this view, look at this view. Top floor of Hotel Africa, which was a 5-star hotel, 500 rooms before the Civil War completely wrecked it.
Wow.
That's
some.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
Look at that view.
And it's on the West Coast.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's so all this is in play. All this is in play because it's it's prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's all in play. You know what I'm saying? It just like I said. Jesus in the New Testament. People don't. They looking and they're searching and looking in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's some.
Yeah, and then it's Sierra Leone, like Leon.
Right. Right. Sierra Leone is a Greek colony.
Sierra Leone, Leonard.
Right. Okay.
I had to be reminded that it's on the West Coast. I totally forgot about that.
Oh yeah. Right. It's not a coincidence. It's when once you tune in at what's going on, you see Most High at work. He's been at work. He's been at work. He told us that in Jeremiah 29:14 that he's gonna return us back. Let me read that for people that don't know nothing about it. Jeremiah 29. When Nebuchadnezzar came, Nebuchadnezzar and his Lord of hosts, Nebuzaradan, they came and sacked Jerusalem, burnt the king's house down, burnt the temple down, and they took the Israelites from Israel back to Babylon. So after 70 years, they came back to the place where they was carried away from. They was carried. Right. They was carried away from. They went into captivity from the land of Israel. So when the 70 years was up, they brought back to the land of Israel.
Right back to the land they were captured from.
That's not the case from us. The case with us is they came and got us from the West Coast of Africa. So they got to take us back to the West Coast of Africa. And from there, we go back home. So 29:14 says, "And I will be found of you, said the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity, just like he did in Babylon, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, said the Lord, and I will bring you again into the place which I have caused you to be carried away from." So we was carried away from the West Coast. We see all these cities that we're dealing with, all these cities that we see as an option for us, they're all on the West Coast of Africa.
Right.
So you can't get out of it. And like he says, his word ain't gonna come back void. Right. So yeah. Anybody else got any comments on that? I'm gonna play this right here. We're probably be on here about an hour and a half, so we ain't gonna be on here 2 hours. Let me play this right here. This is some facts pertaining to the transatlantic slave trade. Feel like people need to know.
Slave trade. You probably think of the Atlantic slave trade. While this is one of the most well known, there were, and still are, numerous other trades. Today, we're going to take a look at all of the different trades throughout history with a focus on the Atlantic trade. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 shocking facts about slave trade. 25. One of the first mentions of slavery was in the Mesopotamian Code of Hammurabi, circa 1860 BC. It's worth noting that besides not having a written language, slavery wasn't too popular with hunter-gatherers because it required social stratification. 24. Since the beginning of civilization, post-hunter-gatherers, slavery has played a huge role in society, from the building of the pyramids in Egypt to indentured servitude in England. In fact, at the turn of the 19th century, an estimated 3/4 of the world was trapped in bondage against their will, some form of slavery or serfdom. 23. The first large-scale slave trade was the Arab slave trade. It started in the 7th century and primarily involved slaves being taken from Western Africa to the Arabian Peninsula. Some historians have cited the Arab slave trade as possibly being the initial source of prejudice against darker-skinned sub-Saharan Africans that has unfortunately continued into the 21st century. 22. When most people consider the phrase slave trade, they're thinking of the Atlantic slave trade. This slave trade started during the 15th century and continued until the 19th century. 21. As with the Arab slave trade, the source of slaves was, once again, sub-Saharan Africa. The Europeans essentially tapped into an already developed slave trade and exploited it for their own purposes. 20. The Portuguese were the first to enter the Atlantic slave trade in the 16th century. For the next 4 centuries, they would remain the primary actors. In fact, by the time it was abolished in the 19th...
Yeah, so I noted a fact on that is, notice it started in Portugal. That's where the Israelites, that's where Herod's descendants were sent to after 70 AD. When they was kicked out of the land of Israel in 70 AD, Herod's lineage was sent to Spain and Portugal. And Spain and Portugal is the one. Spain and Portugal the one started the transatlantic slave trade. And not only that, notice how they keep every time the people they're dealing with all these slave trade coming out of sub-Saharan Africa. And those are the Israelites. And then, like I said before, those are Israelites that was in the Arab slave trade. And what you have to understand about the Arab slave trade, that lasted 1,500 years before the transatlantic slave trade. So when you understand the Most High's prophecies, that don't fit. So how is it gonna be? I mean, it's just for people that want you want to go and research this out, but they focusing in on 400 years, but Hosea tells us right here. Let me read right here. You can go search it out if you want to. So when you understand who talking to us and who prophesied to us was Hosea, and that's in Hosea chapter 6. And he says, "Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn, he will heal us. He hath smitten, he will bind us up after 2 days." See that? After 2 days, and what 1,000 years is 1 day with the Lord.
Right.
So he said, after 2 days will he revive us. In the 3rd day, he'll raise us up. This is the same trickeration they did with JC. JC supposed to have been in the earth 2 days, and he supposed to rise on the 3rd day. But we know that Israel is the son. Jesus ain't the son, he's the son. This is where they get it from right here. It says, Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. "Come and let us return unto the Lord, for we have torn, he will heal us. Yeah, smitten. See that? Let's take that smitten, Isaiah 53. So anyway, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, he will revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. So that's what we're looking at. We in the third day right now. And so my point is this: from 1619 to 2019, that's 400 years. But what about the 1,500 years of the transatlantic? The Arab slave trade. So there it is, right there. He says,
yeah,
chapter 6 of Hosea, verse 2. After 2 days, 2,000 years.
right.
400 years and 1,500 years is 1,900 years. Something to think
Give or
about.
take.
Right.
18th century, nearly half of all slaves traded in the Atlantic slave trade had been shipped to Portuguese colonies like Brazil. 19. Although most people think of the slave trade as being British ships taking slaves from West Africa to the U.S., this only accounted for a little over 6% of all slaves. The vast majority, roughly 60%, were sent to Spanish and Portuguese South America. 18. Most of the remaining slaves, about 30%, were taken to the Caribbean by the British, French, and Dutch empires. 17. This trade wasn't just back and forth, though. It was something called triangle trade. And, as you could guess, triangular trade is any trade that involves 3 separate regions. In this instance, the slaves were taken from West Africa in exchange for cash crops in the Caribbean. The cash crops were exchanged for manufactured goods in New England, and then the manufactured goods were once again exchanged for slaves in West Africa. 16. Although the British North American colonies were not a major destination region for slaves, apart from the plantations in the South, the colonies benefited massively from selling their manufactured goods to slave traders. 15. Historians estimate that approximately 12 million African slaves entered the Atlantic trade between the 16th and 19th centuries. About 1.5 million died on the ships during transport, and 10.5 million were sold into slavery, mostly in the Caribbean. Another 6 million were sold to Asian slave traders, and yet another 8 million were destined for slave markets on the continent of Africa itself. 14. About 4 million more slaves died during forced marches to the coasts of Africa. Since Europeans typically were afraid to venture too far inland due to disease, slaves were brought to the coasts to be sold by slave traders or opposing tribes. 13. With the arrival of European slave ships, criminals and prisoners of war were typically sold to the Europeans for money rather than being punished as they used to be. 12. Once at the coast, slaves were held in large forts called factories. Out of the 20 million slaves who passed through the factory doors, historians estimate that roughly 4% died there, about 820,000 people. 11. Slave ship captains packed anywhere between 350 to 600 people onto their boats. The quarters were so cramped that the victims could barely move on the 2-month voyage across the Atlantic. Many died of disease because they slept in their urine and feces. Others committed suicide by escaping and jumping overboard. Even sailors didn't like working on the slave ships, and many died of disease. This was good for profits, however, as the ship captains had fewer people to pay. 10. Upon arrival in the Americas, usually the Caribbean, slaves were held at seasoning camps. Dysentery was the leading cause of death here, and nearly 5 million slaves died in these camps. 9. Sugar plantations were the reason for about 84% of slaves being brought to the New World. The vast majority would end up in Brazil. 8. Britain's triangle trade between its colonies, however, was the most profitable of the Atlantic slave trades. This led to Britain becoming a massive consumer of sugar. It's estimated that nearly 1 out of every 20 pounds in circulation during the start of the Industrial Revolution was derived from the slave trade. 7. So why were Europeans buying African slaves and not vice versa? To make a long story short, it came down to one thing: technology. Although it would have been cheaper to enslave other Europeans, advances in shipbuilding technology made it possible to enter an existing market on another continent. 6. Plantations in the American South, usually less than 100 slaves, were dwarfed in size compared to plantations in the Caribbean and South America, usually more than 100 slaves. This led to high rates of disease in the larger plantations of South America. Death rates in the Caribbean and Brazil were so high and birth rates were so low that slaves couldn't be replaced without a constant flow from Africa. In the US, slaves had a fertility rate that was nearly 80% higher. 5. By 1825, the high fertility rate among slaves in the US led to nearly 1/4 of all black people in the New World living in the United States. 4. This also meant that by the 1800s, most slaves in the U.S. were much farther removed.
So, did you catch that? Anybody catch that?
Talking about the population.
What happened to the Egyptians when the Egyptians oppressed Israelites in Egypt? What happened?
Multiply.
See what happened? They were dying. They were dying in all other places, but here in America, they were steady multiplying. Ain't that something? Think about that.
From their African roots than those in the Caribbean and South America. While slaves in the U.S. were 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation Americans, most slaves in the Caribbean and South America had been born in Africa.
What's that?
Both British Parliament and U.S. Congress outlawed the importation of slaves in 1807. While Britain pressured other countries to end their slave trades as well, the internal slave trade of the American South continued until the end of the Civil War in 1865. This finally abolished slavery within the U.S. 2. Although American slaves were meant to be free, Jim Crow laws and segregation prevented blacks from owning homes, being employed, and getting an education. It wasn't until November 2000 that Alabama finally became the last state to overturn its ban on interracial marriage. Although the U.S. Supreme Court had prevented Alabama from enforcing its law, the ban remained on books. 1. Although every single government on earth has officially banned slavery, it still remains a huge problem. There are actually more slaves in the world today than ever before. By some estimates, up to 50 million people live in modern-day bondage. Most of these slaves are in southern Asia, over 20 million, but the rest of Asia, Eastern Europe, Africa, and the Middle East all have high levels of slavery as well. Enjoying our lists? Be sure to click that.
And I think that's a glaring example of what I was saying about making changes and not corrections, because you keep hearing this term emancipation and abolishment of slavery. Slavery still has not been abolished.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, well that's what I keep on saying about rightly dividing the scriptures. He ain't said nothing about nobody was coming out in the open laying hands on nobody. There ain't nowhere in the script in the Tanakh. Just like he didn't say it was gonna be that we was gonna get delivered. It's when he come back we was gonna get delivered. Up until that point, we still dealing with slavery.
Right.
So you got that's gotta be understood. Just like they want us to tell you that it's the 10 toes is it's a fifth beast, a fifth kingdom. It ain't but 4 beasts. There ain't no 5. You gotta go back and reevaluate that. Can't be no 10 toes and no Antichrist coming. That's a 5th kingdom. There's only 4 beasts. Ain't no 5 beasts. You know?
Right.
So it's a lot of stuff you can eliminate on your own and take away a lot of confusion, because the angel told Gabriel with 4 beasts. So when you see somebody go talk about a 5th beast and all that, you already know that's garbage. Yeah. Anybody else got any comments on that video? Yeah, I'm gonna play this one right here, and then we're gonna open up for a little Q&A before I close out. This is got to do with that's some history that was hidden from us. The reason why we didn't know that we was Israelites.
Negroes, Part 2. Important notice. This video is made in good faith and never intended to offend anyone. There is no propaganda or any deliberate attempt to misinform anyone. The goal of this video is for you to look for the books, journals, and other publications referenced and study them. Remember, truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth. And to our African American brothers and sisters, this video is made in good faith in an effort to open our eyes and minds. Remember, there are Negro slaves in Europe and the Middle East as well, and not just in the Americas. You are the only group without a place to call home, and there is need for a change. Remember, what happens in Africa reflects on all of us, and we must begin to ask questions. Remember, if an Arab sold a Negro, it is hidden by saying African sold other Africans. If a Berber sold a Negro, it is also hidden by saying African sold other Africans. If a Tuareg sold a Negro, it is hidden by saying African sold other Africans. If a Fulani sold a Hausa, it is hidden by saying African sold other Africans. Remember the recent slaves being.
So based on that right there, look what they're doing right now. Dr. Aracana and them, they calling it African diaspora. They calling us the African diaspora. It goes right along with what he's doing right here. What he's saying right here, a trick of the words. So the Negro is not attached to Ham. The Negro is the Israelite. And all the countries, all the nations over there in Africa, from the time we went in there from running from the Greeks in 143 BC, they've been saying that we came in and occupied their land. They wanted us out of there. So that's what's going on. So notice the area too. It's west coast of Africa where we settled at. And they've been trying to get us out off of that land ever since we went there.
Sold in Libya. Those are the Tuaregs selling the Negroes. But you still see it is seen as Africans selling other Africans. Now you should ask yourself, why do they not say Europeans killed other Europeans in the Holocaust? Now, let us reference a book called The History of Slavery and the Slave Trade, Ancient and Modern, the forms of slavery that prevailed in ancient nations, particularly in Greece and Rome, the African slave trade, and the political history of slavery in the United States, compiled from authentic materials by W.O. Blake and published in 1858. We see the following. So here we see where it tells us that it is upon Ethiopia in an especial manner that the cause of slavery has fallen. At first, it bore but a share of the burden. Britons, Scythians were the fellow slaves of the Ethiopian. But at last, all the other nations of the earth seemed to conspire against the Negro race, agreeing never to enslave each other.
They all had a problem with the Negroes, but they're not telling you, they're not telling you, and we don't have to understand that the Negro is a Hebrew. And so they just start now all of a sudden, like the brother was just telling us, how the Mexican and the Chinese and all them got a problem with us. It's been that way. When they was in the land of Israel, all the nations around about them had a problem with them. So we not, people over in America, because we live inside a bubble, and the information that's been given us been skewed. We don't see this, but he just told you right here. All the people around the Negro that was on the west coast of Africa had a problem with him. So it started way before we came over here.
Thus, this race of human beings has been singled out, whether owing to the accident of color or to their peculiar fitness for certain kinds of labor, for infamy and misfortune, and the abolition of the practice of promiscuous slavery in the modern world was protested by the introduction of a slavery confined entirely to Negroes. Also, if we reference a book called The Races of Man and Their Geographical Distribution by Charles Pickering, and it was published in 1850, we see the following account. But unhappily, we have not only to deal with those who altogether set at naught the authority of the Bible, but with a very large number who, while they profess the utmost reverence and veneration for the scriptures, tell us that the inhabitants of certain regions, Negroes and Hottentots, for example, are not members of the Adamic family, that they are not men possessed of mental faculties of a similar kind to our own, that an impassable barrier exists between the black man and the white man, and that the lot of the former is perpetual slavery to the end of time. So we all know that in Africa there are Hottentots, there are Babas, there are Fulanis, there are Tuaregs, and of course there are the Negroes. So if there is a group singled out, it has to be noted as such. It is not saying Africans, it is saying Negroes. So we need to bear that in mind. But we will go further now to identify who were Negroes. But before we do that, let us look at how long they think the slavery of Negroes should last. Notice that they said the lot of the Negroes from this, or the black man, is perpetual slavery till the end of time. We need to bear that in mind. So if we reference another book called The Negroes and the Negro Slavery, the first an inferior race, the latter its normal condition, by J.H. Van Every, and it was published in 1863, we see the following. The Negro, therefore, isolated in Africa, as has been said, must be in the future what he has been in the past, and without a supernatural interposition, must remain forever a simple, non producing, and non advancing savage. Can this have been the design of the Almighty? There are some things we are not permitted to know, that it is impious as well as foolish to seek to know, that the Almighty, in his infinite beneficence as well as wisdom, forbids us to inquire into, or rather to attempt to inquire into, but in all that is necessary to our happiness and for the well being of the innumerable creatures that surround us, we may know indirectly it is true, but nonetheless, certainly the design of the Almighty Creator. So again, on this other page, it tells us that from time immemorial, Negro slaves were the favorite household servants of the Oriental Caucasians, not alone because they were the most docile and submissive of human beings, but because they were the most faithful and absolutely incapable of betraying their masters, and scarcely a Moorish family of consideration entered Spain without being accompanied by some of these trusty and favorite servants. From the same book, we see where it tells us that the typical Negro, for example, though brave enough when led by his master, shrinks in terror from the face of the lordly Caucasian when not thus supported, and a score or two of the latter in the open field would doubtless drive 1,000 Negroes before them like sheep to the slaughter. But a Negro condemned to die, to be hanged, to be burned even, rarely manifests dread or apprehension of any kind. His imperfect innervation, his sluggish brain, and low grade of sensibility render him incapable of anticipating that terrible physical suffering from which the elaborate and exquisitely organized Caucasian suffers under these circumstances. Let us also reference a book called A Tropical Dependency.
Okay, so you see how they denigrating the Negro. You know, you hadn't figured it out by now.
Yes.
Negro is a Hebrew. So I'm gonna show you something here in a minute. So you see how this right here is what was right here is why they wrote what they wrote in the Constitution, that we was two thirds human. So it ain't, it ain't just all this stuff you dealing with now ain't just start. It's way back here. All these books right here, ancient books. So I'm gonna play one more. Let more go.
An outline of the ancient history of the Western Sudan with an account of the modern settlement of northern Nigeria.
See, they go to Western Sudan again. That's the Negro land. Anyway,
by Flora L. Shaw, Lady Lugard, and it was published in 1905. We see the following. From time immemorial, the slave trade of the ancient world had its markets of supply in the Sudan. The earliest Greek historians speak of slaves captured by the native tribes of North Africa, and the monuments of Persia and Ethiopia show that the enslavement of the Negro was a custom.
So let's look at that right there. So he just mentioned the Greeks. That's the third beast. Now he's talking about Persia. That's the second beast. All these people got a problem with it, with Hebrew. So
more ancient than any written record. In modern times, the horrors of the African slave trade have been fully exposed by the great army of explorers who have penetrated into the interior of the continent. Livingstone, Baker, Stanley, Cameron, and many others have given the testimony of eyewitnesses to the sufferings of the natives, whom they demand for slaves, caused to be hunted like wild beasts in their homes. My husband, when he fought against the slave raiders of Nyasaland, was himself a witness of the brutalities of the Mohammedan slave hunters in East Africa. So here, two things to note are the fact that they were hunted like wild beasts in their homes. So when they tell you that somebody sold the other, your question should be, as you are now, if somebody was selling you, won't you run away? Now ask yourself how somebody could have sold 4,000 people. How many people do you need to sell 3,000 or 4,000 people? And people were running away from slave hunts. So you need to understand that it was the army they had that were able to do it. And then another thing to understand here is the fact that it was Mohammedan slave hunters that did the slave raiding. The slaves were captured and sold to some people. It is not something like selling as in, oh, I have this boy for sale. If it was just sale, it will only be little boys and little girls. You can't explain to anybody how an adult, man or woman, could just be sold. And she stands there and you pay a little money for him or her and she starts following the master. So if you notice the references we had earlier, they tried to insinuate that the Negroes were animals. They don't have reasoning. If you understand how you see a man driving like 100 or 200 heads of cattle today, that's exactly how they made it look like, without telling everybody how they captured the slaves. So what they did was to tell their people that these guys are actually animals. They are not human. So they are like cattle. That's how we get them.
Okay. So ain't that what they said? Ain't that what it was said in the Constitution? That we was part of they relegated us down to cattle.
Right.
Yes.
I started. So I'm showing you how that this ain't just started. You see how they're doing it right here. And these were black people in Africa. So you say, what are you talking about? Let's go to Genesis right quick. I'm gonna show you something. The reason why I keep on bringing it up. So I'm in Genesis, chapter 9, verse 20. Okay, so this is a story about Noah drunk. Noah supposed to got drunk in his tent. So it says Noah, this 9 and 20. Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank the wine, and he was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. So, but over here in chapter, before Noah get on the boat, he tell you right here. Let me get it. Chapter 6, verse 9. It says, "These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with God." So Noah wasn't no drunk before he got on the boat. He tell you he's perfect in his generation, right? And then you get over here.
Yeah.
Now that's because these people got hotel records, and what you have to understand, they chopped our records all up, and then the main thing was they denigrated us, Yahweh's people. They denigrated us. So
Yes. Yeah.
you get on, he was perfect in the generation when the Most High went and got him. So now all of a sudden, right here it says Noah began to be a husbandman and planted a vineyard, and he drank the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. Well, let's keep going.
Nah.
So now Ham, see, that's these people right here. The man showing you that was going to get us. They was going to get us. They Ham, the Put and Canaan and Mizraim, and you know, the Negro is not out of Ham's lineage. So
Right.
22 says, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers was out. Well, we already went over the story. We know that it was Japhet that went into he went into he didn't see Noah naked, Noah's wife. That's Noah's wife. Is a man's wife is his nakedness. So Japhet went in there and slept with Noah and Noah and she had a seed, Canaan.
Yeah.
See that? So now
Yes.
look at what they're telling you. That's why they're saying that. It's coming from when they tricked this off right here. Right here when they tricked this off in Genesis chapter 9, when it's the story of what happened with Noah and his wife. These people that's on the west coast of Africa is Shemites. They're not Africans. But the African got a problem with them because of they God. When they was in Egypt, they had them in bondage, and our God came there and shut Egypt down. They know that.
Right.
And then later on in our history, you know, everybody know our history except us. So later on in our history, the Greeks came and fled. We fled and ended up over there. But we was told not to go to Egypt, to that area along the Nile. We came across the top of Africa and went down and settled on the west coast of Africa, where everybody knew we was there. All those people, all the Ham children, had a problem with us. So when and Esau had a problem with us, so they collaborated, like I said, together. And then he told you that the Europeans couldn't go into the continent because the continent was eating them up. They were dying of diseases. But the Hamite, he lived there. So like the man just showed, they had armies. They had raid parties, armies going in there getting us. They had a problem with us. So I'm showing you how the denigration that's in the Constitution ain't just start when we got here. They denigrated over there.
Yeah.
It's been going on. This ain't nothing new. So like I said, all of a sudden Noah drunk. Then Jacob, he's slick. He a usurper. They denigrated us. You have to understand that. Yeah. Like I said, ain't no way that Ham it's a major, they didn't flip that story upside down on his head about Ham, Shem, and Japheth just for GP. It's a reason. You have to understand. You have to understand that. Yeah. So I had so the name of this, if you want to watch all of it, there's two parts to it. It's who and who are the Negroes. You got part 1 and 2. You can watch that on your own.
Who are the Negroes?
Who and who are the Negroes? Part 1 and 2.
Oh.
Okay. So what you got?
I was gonna say the Hamites have the same complexion as us, but their countenance would not be the same, right?
Well, that's another trick. It's the Cush. That's the other son I was trying to think of. And Ham got Put, Cush, and Canaan, and Mizraim. Ethiopia. The Ethiopian is the one that look like us. Brown skin.
Okay.
That's the Ethiopian, Cushite. That's who Moses married, the Cushite one.
So Put and Canaan, they look like what?
Canaan came from Japhet. They stuck Canaan over there. Yeah, stuck Canaan over there. But when you look at when you listen to what I'm saying and go and do the research, you're gonna see that Cush, Ethiopia, is brown skin. They're brown skin like we are.
Right.
and the Egyptian is like I said, the Egyptian is a dark skinned man that's, you know, yeah. So you know, you got when you understand melanin and go into that, you all that stuff start unfolding because of when you
Okay.
let me read something right quick. These angels are. If you've been paying attention to what these people talk about the UFOs and all this stuff and how, or even the original Buddha, the original Buddha was blue black.
Right.
Right.
And then they keep on talking about now these people, these reports coming out about they seeing UFOs, but it's blue black men driving them. So
Mm.
so let's look at that. So I'm in Ezekiel chapter 1 right quick. So he's gonna describe these angels. And so like and what you come to find out is these every time they go into a description, they're doing it for a reason. The most I had them describing it for a reason. You can't overlook that. So I'm in chapter Ezekiel 1, I'm at verse 5. It says,
Okay.
also out of the midst thereof kind of like the four living creatures, and this was their appearance. See, he's telling you that for a reason. This coming all the way down from ancient time. He says, uh, this is their appearance, and they had the likeness of a man. Everyone had four faces, and everyone had four wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the soles of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and the sparkle like the color of burnt brass, like blue. See that? Blue black. Yeah. So yeah. So he's telling you that for a reason. So now you go over here to Lord of Hosts. And then right quick, read that in Daniel chapter 8. Uh 10, I mean, starting at verse 4, it says, and in the 4th and 20th day of the first month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hedekah, I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man, he described me for a reason, clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold and upack. His body, he's going to tell you how he looked, was like the burl. See that? So what is that? That's like a penny. A penny
Yeah.
brown. Penny brown. The man, look at the man on his picture right here on the screen. See, he brown. That's burl right there.
Right.
That's how Israelite is, burl.
Mm-hmm.
He told you David was ruddy.
Mm.
See that? That's reddish brown. See that?
Right.
Okay, so you have to understand that.
Yes.
But anyway, so I showed you how to spot an Edomite. I showed you about the snars. I keep showing you. I told you if you want to find out what a Edomite look like, look at Fachi. The guy that's look at the Dr. Fachi. So now I'm going to show you what Israelite look like. You have to give me a minute. You got to give me a minute, right quick. Let me do this.
Okay.
Want to know where to invest 1,000?
Okay.
I think that the point that you made about us living in a bubble here in America, I think that's a significant point because a lot of people, Leonard, um, many people live in are born and live in the same neighborhood all their life and they never even travel outside.
Right.
All of their information, all of their experiences is right there, you know, uh, in those few blocks of their community or their neighborhood. And of course, we're getting fed, information by fake news media, and they're
Right. Okay.
mislabeled at school and everything. Okay.
All right, so let me show you what an Israelite gonna look like. Tie your shoes up. Let me see. I need to do. Okay. This right here, super duper important. Been, like I said, we had blinders on, but they ain't paying attention to this type of stuff. So here we go. We're gonna get a little soul out of this, but I'm gonna prove my point. Go. So this the group called. I was showing you how, like I said, when they start describing something to you in the scriptures, you gotta pay attention to that. Also, when they start listing those lineages, let me do that right quick before I turn this on. So if you go to let's see where I'm at. Ezra. I think it's Ezra. Yeah, Ezra chapter 2. Ezra chapter 2.
Okay.
And so you see the lineages. This is about this when they left Babylon. I told you Zerubbabel and Josiah and Joshua, the high priest, came out. And in verse 2 it says, which came with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, naming all these people, right? And if you keep on going, you're gonna see that you got different people that got different skills. This is the reason why the Babylonians wanted us, and the reason why they America went the way it prospered so fast. So it says in 39, let me find something like 36 says the priests and the children of these priests. Keep going, you're gonna see where it says let me find it.
The singers.
Yeah, what is that?
41.
Yeah, so see the singers, the children of Asaph. So who is Asaph? Go to Psalms right quick. Let me find one for you. Yeah. They ain't just we don't have all these talents just to have them. We got them honest. So give me a minute. So if you look at Psalm 42, is one example. It says in Psalm 42, an intense longing for God. Then it says to the chief musicians. See that these musicians, this guy right here, Mashcal, the son of Korah, right? That's one of them. But I'm trying to show you this other guy. You can see it again in 45, same guy. So 50. So see Psalm 50 says, God is the judge, the Psalm of Asaph. That's the Asaph I just showed you over there. All these singers descended from him. And so I showed you how he described the Israelite brown skinned. They brown skinned, they burrow, they brown skinned. So check this out. So you're gonna understand why America and why Motown, all that did what it did. So here you go right here.
Big Ray Ransom is going to give us the honor of introducing everybody, right? Okay, sure. On the end here we have our lead and rhythm guitarist.
They ain't just pop up out of blue.
Rhythm man renowned Reggie Hargis.
Yeah.
On drums we have Eddie Adams. He's also a very fine bass player and percussionist.
Then you want to know how we stop this. You want to know how we brought over here. They ain't gonna bust a grade. They ain't violent. You know what I'm saying? Look how they look. They count.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody cut nobody throwing all that debauchery. So check it out.
On keyboards we have Donald Nevins, and he's a classical keyboardist by instinct, but he decided to get into this thing too.
See that?
Wow.
And I'm Ransom, and I play bass.
And look at their countenance.
Yeah, now watch this.
And last but not least, horn instrumentalist Jimmy Brown.
What does Duzik mean?
Duzik means dance music.
Slang.
Right. You guys make up your, besides making those great songs and records, you make up your own words.
Yeah, well, we're from, another part of the country, like Atlanta's another place, and it's away from most everybody. So we just come up with different things to have a good time with, and it catches on, I guess.
I understand your combination of two bands originally, or you several members came from different bands, and one band was in the jazz and the other band was in the disco and funk, right?
Yeah, that was the concept of the group when we first got together, was to combine those two.
So what you're dealing with is the total opposite of what these clowns have put on us. It's total opposite. Look at this. Now watch this though.
Two elements of music and make our sound.
And
our first release was called Daz, Disco Jazz.
I made up another word, right?
Like I said, that was what the group was about.
Working real well for you. You got a great album going for you. And I understand the song you're about to do will be the very next single.
Very next single off the album. And it's called Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody to Get On Down.
Okay, how about it for break?
Now watch this here. That's the same single from back in the day, but they display. Check it out. The Chinese, the European, the Chinese, they can't make this kind of music. These are gifts the Most High gave them to worship Him in the temple. See that? Come on. You got that? You see that? So that's how this place blowed up. Let me show you this brother right quick.
Yes.
Watch this brother in the brown, dark brown. Watch it. Look. He was made. He got a heritage, a lineage go all the way back. This is why he can do that. Watch this. The songbird. Come on. Come on now. Okay. You see that?
Yeah.
And then
yes.
And Leonard,
awesome.
There's some that can play all them instruments. One man play all them instruments.
That's what David can. That's what David can do. That's what I showed you ASAP and all of them. They ascended from a lineage.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the reason. That's the reason the Most High is showing you in there that He giving you those lineages. But we skip over that.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My dad had cousin on his mom's side had a little boy they called Little Lucky Peterson, and he played all the instruments by himself.
Right. Yeah, that was back then. When, like I said, when Harlem and all that was in place, you can walk down the streets and just pick any brother. They had them type of skills. That's the reason why they came and they diluted us with all the stuff that's going on. They diluted us. But anyway, like I said, they knew. They was walking down in there amongst us, and they knew who we were, but we didn't know who we was. Mm-hmm. So you got to imagine how much more so a brother gonna sing when he find out who he is.
Right.
If he can sing like that, don't know who he is, what he gonna do when he find out? And when he get back to his homeland.
Yes.
Come on. So yeah.
Yes.
So with that being said, I was gonna open up for a little. Anybody got any questions? A little Q&A, and then we're gonna close out.
Well, I was just gonna inquire. So the word says that the Lord says, or God said, let's make them in our image.
Right.
Okay. So I didn't see no stringy hair. I didn't see no blonde. I didn't see no blue eyes, no red hair. Right. I didn't see none of that.
Right.
All I see was a woolly hair black man. Right. And of course they had to use the dirt off the ground to get to get the melanin going, because it has all the elements in it.
Right.
Including gold. That's why we like, I don't know, to me, we shine.
Right. So they didn't put a whole nother disclaimer on us. Like I said, it started long before they put what they put in the Constitution. They started. You can see from these books, and but they started this a long time ago even before they went and got us. They already had they denigrated us, and they denigrated us. And we have so much talent, because those are the gifts the Most High gave us to deal with Him with. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
So what you have to understand about that was, what did the Most High say it happened? What the angels do when they saw Him creating and forming the earth and doing what He did with the heavens? What they do? The angels,
They praised Him.
sons of God, did what they do? They sang.
Oh.
They
Yeah,
start
they
busting it.
praised.
Hey, so ain't the Israelites made in their image?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, ain't that what the brother was just doing, singing?
Yep.
Yes.
So you have to imagine those people, the Moabites and the Edomites and all them around Israel at the time when the temple was there, the sounds that they was hearing coming out of the temple. That in itself made them hate the Israelite right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
David ain't playing a string instrument and playing all those instruments just because, on accident. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's
Right.
a part of who we are. That's in us too. That's a major part of who we are. We built to worship. So if you ain't worshiping, then you off track. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Um, I had a question. What should we get from the fact in the when they were sharing facts about the slave trade and all of that, and they said that slaves in America were not dying as rapidly as slaves that were traded to other areas.
right. Zechariah chapter 12. Zechariah chapter 12.
Exactly. Okay.
Let me read it. It says, starting at verse 6. In that day will I make the governors, the kings of Judah, heat the fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in the sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. And the Lord, look at this, the Lord shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the habits of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah, right? So where they had the Cape Coast, Cape Verde, and all those this is the Gold Coast. When you go back and look at that and do research on that, they call that area the Kingdom of Judah. So all the people they brought over here was from Judah, out of Judah, majority of them. So who was he gonna serve?
Okay.
Who was he gonna save first? Verse 7 says, the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. So he's going to say the tents of Judah first. Well, what Judah at? Judah in America. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
What's the chief tribe? What's the chief tribe in Jerusalem? Judah. Judah is the chief tribe. Right. Judah. David came out of Judah.
Right.
So when he split the tribes up, what did he do? He said the 10 tribes, but he said he kept Judah and Benjamin on David's account. He kept Judah, Benjamin, and Levi on David's account. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Judah, are the Hebrew Israelites that keep the temple and the keepers of the temple, right?
The Levites.
No, the kingdom.
The Levites keep of the
Line of kings.
Huh?
Judah. The Levites is the keeper of the temple and the priests. Judah is
right.
keeps Israel.
Right.
Judah defends Israel.
So the Levites Judah does not encompass the Levite. That's a whole different.
Yeah, it's a different tribe. The Levites and the priesthood is the ones that over the temple.
Okay.
Judah is the red tribe. All you have to do is go back to what happened in Egypt when Joseph said he was going to keep Benjamin with him. Who the one went off? Judah went off. When he got ready to go, when he went to go get Benjamin, Jacob had already, he thought Joseph was dead. So when they told him that they came to get Benjamin, he said, "No, Benjamin ain't going nowhere." Joseph the one stood up. Judah the one stood up and told him he's gonna be under my protection. If he don't come back, then his blood gonna be on my hand.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they throw Joseph in the well. They was gonna kill Joseph. Judah stood up.
Mm-hmm.
And stood up for him and told him, "No, don't kill him. We're gonna sell him into Egypt. Sell him to these Ishmaelites."
Mm-hmm.
Judah is the defense. He's the defender of Israel.
Okay.
And the words say he's the lawgiver.
Right.
Isn't Judah the one that stood up to Joseph when?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pertaining to Benjamin, because Benjamin, he the one had convinced Jacob to let Benjamin come. He said that Benjamin was under his protection. So yeah. So when you understand all that, that's what's going on.
I just wanted to piggyback that on what Zaire said. Judah is the lawgiver for the nation of Israel. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna play this here, and I'm gonna see everybody on Friday.